In this live video, I'm at Regional. I'm going to be taking you through ProPresenter 7 and how we actually create our service flow in ProPresenter to prepare for the weekend. We're going to use tools like Planning Center and our OneDrive account to actually pull files in, place them into the service flow as needed, and hopefully this will be prepared well enough so that we can run our weekend services. So let's take a look at that. We're going to step into ProPresenter first. And so here we are in ProPresenter 7, and you can see we actually have, this happens to be last weekend's playlist. I found that actually the best way to create a new playlist for the weekend is just to copy off of the old one, because there's a lot of stuff there that we can reuse. So first thing I want to do is rename this weekend playlist. So in this case, we're looking at the 24th, and we also have weekend services on the 27th. So there we are. Next thing I do is I'll go into the service flow, and I'm going to remove items that we may or may not use, specifically the music. I'll go ahead and remove that right away. Next thing I want to do is make sure that our sermon notes are set to just be named and titled according to the week that we're on. So we're actually on week 10. I'm going to right click. I'm going to have it show me this item in the library. And so here's all of our presentations, and you can see each week we've done a new one. So I'm just going to duplicate this current one. It gives me another one similarly named. I'm then going to rename this guy, and we're just going to say it's week 10. And just because I've made changes in this presentation down here, it doesn't make it a part of our service playlist for the weekend. I need to actually drag that in. So let's go ahead and drag this up. We're going to hover over Live Regional. We're going to hover right underneath where week 9 is. So now we've got essentially 2 copies of the same thing, just with different naming. I'm going to remove the old one. Now we've got week 10 listed, and with our teaching notes, somebody from the teaching team will come in. They actually will arrive midday on Thursday with all of the sermon notes as expected before our practice run through that happens Thursday afternoon. They'll type up all the notes and prepare them so that that service practice is ready, but it is a part of our teaching team that actually creates those. So for this particular example, I'm just going to show you how I get this prepared so that they can be ready to add their notes in. So back in ProPresenter here, I actually will, looking at the sermon presentation, I'm going to go ahead and remove the announcements. Those are actually going to go into a different part of service. The bumper can remain, but I will actually highlight everything else and deselect items that need to stay in place. For example, we need to keep the title slide for the pastor, we need to keep the title slide for the sermon, and a couple of blank slides. I also like to leave one of the teaching note slides as well, just so that there's a template that they can work off of. And I don't mind adding or leaving a couple of extra blank slides, but I'm going to delete everything else. So now what they see is actually a simple bumper video, a title slide, name slide, title slide, and one basic note that they can then go and edit. What our editor will do at the time when they're ready to input is they're just going to right click, choose edit. They're going to come into this show and just start adding slides as necessary. But giving them one as an example allows them to just change it and put sample text in here. So I'm going to put your sample text, but they can put any text they need for the notes. It's ready to go. All right, so that's what I do to prepare for the sermon. Next thing I need to do is to make sure that my rotating slides are correct. So I'm actually just going to work from top to bottom here. If I go to my rotating slides, I can see any of the announcements that we had from the previous week. And I want to scan through here and make sure there's nothing that's already expired. So such as an announcement that referred only to one specific week. And I'm going to increase the size of this a little bit, make it easier for us. And it appears that everything, actually this event is already done. So I'm going to remove this. All the rest of this looks like it's current. But another thing we want to do is also compare it to the assets that are given to us for the specific week. So I'm going to open up my Finder. And if I go into what I start with, I open the weekly assets folder. This is actually located on the desktop of this computer. I'm going to highlight everything and I'm going to move them all to the trash because this is all related to last week's stuff. So once that gets moved out to the trash, and we can see here, then I'm going to go into OneDrive. OneDrive is linked with just a shared assets folder, and I'm going to find the weekly assets that are here. I'm actually going to double click into that folder in order to make sure that I'm only grabbing those items. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to drag, and while I'm holding Option, which adds the plus sign over here, I'm going to drop them into that weekly assets folder. That plus sign indicates that it's going to make a copy of these items into my desktop folder instead of moving them. While that's working, we're going to come back into ProPresenter and take a look at the media bin. And so you can see here at the bottom, and I tapped on the top to, the media icon to bring this up. If I go into my weekly assets folder, we'll see that this is going to start populating with the files that we had moved into our desktop folder. And that's because this is actually a smart folder that, that specifically is looking for a folder on our desktop. Well, now that I look at this, I don't see any slides that are new for this upcoming week, but I can also see, because I had deleted items from my previous folder, I've got a bunch of empty slides up here that need to be dealt with. So let's deal with those next. All right, so I've got the subscribe. I'm just going to click and drag and drop. This just replaces it. Another good reason for essentially removing the old assets from last week and replacing them with new ones is because our communications team may have actually made slight modifications to these slides. We wouldn't know the difference by just glancing at them. It could be something like a typo was repaired or a color change or something like that. And so I want to replace these slides every week anyway, just to make sure that they are current according to what our communications team has prepared. Just another moment here. Okay, now we've replaced all of the previous slides with the new ones. Now I want to take a look at what's in my assets folder and make sure that I'm not missing something. So for example, there's this all leader gathering slide. However, it is showing that's from a previous week. It's already expired, so we don't need that one. I do see this Easter egg hunt slide that's new, so I'm going to actually drag that up. And in the pre-service announcement loop, it doesn't matter where things go. I'm just going to add them in there in whatever order. Eventually, they will be displayed on screen, so no worries about the order there. All right, I think we've finished all that we need for our pre-service announcements. I'm going to go ahead and close my media bin. And we're going to take a look at the set list slide. So I'm going to right click and edit the set list slide. All right, now that we're in our editor, I'm going to pull up our Planning Center events, or the service flow from Planning Center, and just make sure that I'm matching the set list to what's actually in our service flow. So I'm pulling it from the Service Planning Master. At this time of the day, which is early on Thursday, the Service Planning Master is going to have our most accurate version of the service flow. There still may be some small tweaks before service actually happens in the evening, but I'm going to use this as a starting point. If I were to use like the regional gathering service flow, it may actually have incorrect data based off of maybe some changes that have happened throughout the week. So I'm going to go into Service Planning Master for this particular week. And we're going to take a look at the service flow here. So it starts with announcement video. We've got a couple of songs. So I'm going to go ahead and update my set list to show these songs. So The Battle Is Yours. I'm going to just Command Tab back into ProPresenter and update these. Battle Is Yours. Let's see, we've got a new song, Firm Foundation, He Won't. Okay. Let's see what other songs we have here. For the Cross. And that's it for our songs. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove placeholder for that last section. Now what I want to do is go back in and update the CCLI information to make sure it's accurate. So I'm going to come into Planning Center and I'll find Battle Is Yours and select that item. I'm going to go into my files and I'm looking for, I like the lyrics file. If I pull up the lyrics file, I can see this is actually a Mercy Hill worship song because it's indicating our band up there at the top. If it wasn't a Mercy Hill worship song, we may have a little bit more information. But since this is one of ours, I'm going to Command Tab back. And we're actually just going to leave it like this. And we wrote this song last year, so I'm going to put 2021 just so that it's updated. Let's see, Firm Foundation, He Won't. Let's take a look at that song. We're going to look for probably, well, either of these PDFs will probably have what we need. Okay, here's the information we're looking for. It's at the bottom of this particular PDF. And let's go and get all the way down to this CCLI point right here. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. I'm going to jump back into ProPresenter, and I'm going to actually, if you do a right click and choose paste and match style, that will automatically update the fonts to make it work. The other thing I like to do instead of using the right click option is there are shortcuts that can be used. And in this case, it's Command, Option, Shift, and V. That is the same as paste and match style. I find keyboard shortcuts to be a little bit more handy. Just reformat that a little bit to make it fit all within the bounds. And now let's see if we can grab the information of For the Cross. We'll find a PDF that has our lyrics. And in this case, we've got the CCLI info down here at the bottom. And so we're going to use down to this point, Command C to copy, Command Tab to get back into here, and Command Option Shift V to paste that info in. Now I'd like to actually format it the full width, so I'm going to just bring this line up and add a space. I'm going to bring this line up and add a space as well. So now we've got our information formatted right, and it's kind of got like this large trailing area instead of a header area. So I'm going to just add a carriage return to bring that text back down into an area that looks nice. So we've updated our set list. Now what we need to do is actually apply in our playlist some of these changes. So I'm going to actually add the songs into our playlist now. So Command F to find. That brings up our search. You can also, if we didn't use Command F, you can use the search icon in the top left. And we're going to look for these songs now. So The Battle Is Yours. Drag and drop into the spot where you need it. Let's see, next song, Firm Foundation. I didn't think that was going to be in there since we haven't done it before. Let me see if it's in Song Select. There it is. Firm Foundation, He Won't. I'm going to go ahead and import that song. We're going to use the proper theme here. I'm going to edit it. And let's go ahead and use the Reflow editor to format this a little bit better for our usage. And I'm simply going to add 2 lines per slide. And I'm using Option Return to modify that. We can modify this a little bit more, but you might want to follow a different tutorial I've already created about creating a new song in ProPresenter. That will give you a little bit more information about how to use the Reflow editor to make this work best for you. We also probably would not have these little in quote things. So just kind of cleaning that up a little bit while I have a chance. And we don't need repeat. Option return. Option return. And at the end, I'm going to add 3 blank slides. We're going to make one of them a group of intro. We'll make the next one a group of outro. And the last one is going to be a group of blank. Don't see blank, so I'm going to edit and go ahead and make a blank. We'll take the color away, make it black. All right, so we've got essentially all that we need to be able to insert that song. I'm going to go ahead and hit import. And it did add it to my playlist. It just put it at the bottom, so I'm going to reorganize this and put it where it needs to be. Cool, so we've got that song. And the last song is For the Cross, Command F to find it. I'm going to go back to our internal library instead of Song Select, and we're going to say For the Cross. There it is. Let's go ahead and drop that in after the sermon. All right, cool. Next thing we want to do is verify everything that we've done against Planning Center to make sure that we are following things correctly. So again, back to the top. I usually go top down and top down again and top down again. It's multiple trips, but we're going to go ahead and make sure we've got what we need. All right, so the first thing in our service is the announcement video. So let's go back into ProPresenter. After rotating, we have our announcement video. And I see that video, we don't have a placeholder even for the announcement. So I'm gonna open my media bin. I'm gonna find that announcement, and it is labeled 327, which is great. I'm just gonna drag and drop that guy up here. So now we've got our announcement video right after our countdown timer. One thing about that media bin is it automatically loops videos that are in here. So let's take the loop off. We're gonna right click, we'll choose our inspector. We're gonna go under properties. We'll make sure it's not looping. We'll do stop. And here at Regional, we use fade to clear. At other campuses, you might use fade to black or even hold last slide. It does change a little bit about what you might see at the campus level, but here we're gonna use fade to clear. All right, and another thing we wanna do is make this a foreground video. So go to media action behavior and make it a foreground. And we can also add a go to next timer. We just change it to 0. That way at the end of this video, it'll automatically transition to a blank slide. Another thing you can see, we've applied macros in here at Regional. Let's go ahead and apply the proper macro here. And this is a video announcements. So I'm just gonna drag and drop that macro right on top of there. So we've got video announcements as needed. Close my media bin. Let's go back to Planning Center and see what's after the announcements. Okay, first thing is Battle is Yours. Worship leader sets up a song and then Firm Foundation. Pretty sure we have it that way. There's Battle is Yours, Firm Foundation. Cool. Then we do our bumper video and the sermon. So if we take a look at our sermon section, we do have the bumper video, but it's got that question mark. It's because I deleted it out of the weekly assets folder. I need to put that guy back in here. And once again, since I'm dragging from the media bin, I want to go into my inspector. I want to verify properties are showing that it's a stop and fade to clear. I also want to go and make sure it is a foreground video. If you don't do a foreground video, this go to next timer actually makes it skip this slide altogether. By having it a foreground video, it will wait till the end of the video to skip to the next slide. All right, this has a macro already on it because there was a placeholder there, but the macro that's being used is just this bumper macro. And then the next slide is our sermon macro. This is formatted exactly as we need it to be for our services. So we're looking good there. Let's go back into Planning Center. After sermon is For the Cross. After For the Cross is our offering. And I just want to look through real quick in the offering to make sure we do or do not have any slides that are necessary. So adoption, foster care highlight, vision gap, onboard to giving. Okay, so there will be a giving slide. So I'm going to come back in here, For the Cross, send out. Okay, or send out. Oh, we've got some extra slides that are from last week we're going to take out. So I'm command clicking on each of those, and I'm going to right click and delete. Let's see, this slide's also extra along with that one. Command clicking them, right click and delete. All right, and the give slide that we would typically use is this one. It is a lower third for Regional. So that's exactly as we need. And there's a whole lot of extra blank slides that are unnecessary. Let's go ahead and get rid of those guys. And I don't think that Daniel will be our service host, so let's go ahead and update that. And just to clear my screen, I like to close the media bin. Let's jump back into Planning Center. This is where I need to leave the current, I guess I'm in the service planning master, and I need to go into the regional plan because in the regional plan, it will show specifically who is our service host. So I'm going to come into regional. We're going to do Thursday night service because that's what we're on. If I take a look at that, I can see my teams and my gathering campus pastor is Eugene. All right, so I'll command tab back into ProPresenter. I'm going to find Eugene's slide. I like to copy from down here. This under the alternate header. These are just slides that we can have pre-formatted, and it's easy just to copy and then paste them into place. By doing that, we're never actually losing the templates. We're just moving them or copying them. And since Daniel's not needed, we're going to remove that guy. Okay, so we've got Eugene as our service host. There is a macro on that, and that macro is our live announcements and send out. And we can talk a little bit about what those macros do, but just know that it's on there for him. All right, so I'm pretty sure we have made it through the Planning Center list, which we did. All right, we've updated the name. We've got a proper service flow. We could go through and make sure our songs are formatted right. So using proper templates, for example, in this case, the lower third template is what we're looking for. I want to make sure there's not like any random slides, because occasionally we might modify a song and like add a Bible verse somewhere where a worship leader wants to speak through a moment or something like that. So we may do that here, but it doesn't look like we have that happening in this one. Look at firm foundation. Okay, this is going to require some reflow to make things work. Like for example, I would probably create a new arrangement. We're going to call it arrangement 1. I don't need the blank at the end. Oops, I should have left the outro. I'm going to move the blank up to the beginning. Actually, not the blank, the intro. Okay, and the reason why I would put an intro at the beginning is because I want to put a macro on a slide, and the intro slide is one that's not going to change from any other edits within the song. So I'm just going to put our worship macro right on there. Gives us a place for that. And I don't know, in off camera, I'm going to go ahead and modify this song because it is a brand new song for us. But just know that is a step that we would take in creating our flow for the service. Again, the sermon gets entered by someone else. Got a song formatted correctly. Looks good. And our send out looks good. All right, I believe we've got all that we need. Last things I would do would be to preview videos. So like clicking them to, sorry if the audio comes through too much, just to follow and make sure everything looks good. And that should advance to the next slide automatically. And sure enough, it did. I would play through that video all the way.
To a 20 and 21.
Then it's going to advance
but first,
to
let's all
just the
stand
blank
and
slide,
worship together.
which is okay too. And the blank slide, then they would go to music. And again, I'm just kind of checking all of the different details of service to make sure everything looks good. And I would give it a full look, not just the quick preview that we're doing in our recording here. Now I can also look at my stage display, which is over here, and see that my timer at the top is indicating something strange. This is our Planning Center timer. I do want to update that. So in your View pull-down menu, which is off the screen for you here, you're not going to be able to see it, but in View, you can choose Planning Center. This is going to bring up our Planning Center docked item, and just scroll in here and find your particular service. So we've got Thursday and Strong and Courageous week 10. And so now our timer has been updated. Looks like we're good to go. Show our looping announcements. And I'm going to go and clear that. So yeah, as you can see, service seems to flow really well. There's nothing that looks out of sorts. So I think we're good here on preparing it. Now later in the evening, one of our team members is going to come in and just double check all the work that I did, and they're also going to compare the notes against the sermon the sermon practice run that we did earlier in the day. And so there is another set of eyes on it. But just to give you one more view of something else that he would do after it's fully completed service, is you would right click onto the playlist. We choose export. And we're going to go ahead and export this out to a location. So we use our OneDrive. Let's see, it would go under ProPresenter. In this case, we're looking at regional campus, and there's a few that are already there, but we'll just go ahead and export it. Make sure this include media with presentations is there. Hit save, and then OneDrive starts to upload that to be available to anyone outside of the building that wants to be able to download it to their computer, like at a campus, for example. So I think that's all I've got for you. Certainly check other training modules. This particular training module kind of took all of those other pieces and put it together into one. And I know I was going as quickly as I could through these things, so I apologize for stuttering in any way. But I do feel like this was helpful to be able to show you exactly what goes into preparing our ProPresenter for the weekend. And the biggest thing is just copy from what's already created to simplify everything. I hope that helps, and keep checking back for more content.